Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be discussing why Ireland is Europe's medtech hotspot. Now, medtech may sound high-tech, but medical technology has been steadily growing for the past 50 years. The sector is rising in conjunction with Ireland's thriving biopharma and tech industries, both of which have created a deep pool of expert knowledge and talent in the country. Ireland is now a world leader in life science innovation and has ongoing research and development to keep it at the cutting edge. I'm going to look at this topic with my guests today, who are currently working in Ireland's medtech industry, to give their first-hand experience of the reality of the sector. To discuss this subject today is James Winters, who's the Corporate Vice President, Manufacturing and Supply Chain for Teleflex. The Teleflex makes medical devices for the health industry in critical care and surgery. James has sat on the Irish Medtech Association board from 2012 to 2017 and was also the chair in 2016. Welcome to you, James.
Hello, good morning.
And joining James is Mark Hennessy, site lead of Bausch & Lomb in Ireland. Now, Bausch & Lomb have a manufacturing and R&D division in Waterford, which Mark leads as the company continues to expand its European markets. Welcome to you too, Mark.
Hello, good morning. Delighted to be here.
And from IDA Ireland, I have Rachel Shelley, head of MedTech, to discuss Ireland's life science landscape. Hello, Rachel. Lovely to have you here.
Hello, Carmen. Great to see you today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, Rachel, I'm going to start off with you. As IDA is Ireland's head of MedTech, what makes Ireland so attractive for MedTech?
Thanks, Carmel. So, yes, there are four key elements to why Ireland has become a global hub for medical technologies. The first is the track record. So, for over 70 years, Ireland has built up a global reputation as a high-quality location for the development and manufacture of complex regulated medical devices. So Abbott Laboratories was the first company to set up in 1946, and today we have 14 of the top medtech companies in the world, spanning cardiovascular devices, orthopedic devices, vision care products, hospital products and diagnostics. And their companies including Medtronic, Boston Scientific, Johnson & Johnson, Stryker, and the companies that are with us on the call today. The second piece really is about talent. So there's 48,000 people employed in the medtech industry in Ireland, and we've the highest number of jobs per capita in Europe. So that speaks to a high density of companies and employees across engineering, production, quality, regulatory affairs, and also clinical and scientific roles, as well as an evolving technology space, which is hugely important for the future. The third piece is around European access. So Ireland is a fully participating member of the EU, which gives companies easy access into the European market and a consistent regulatory environment in which to operate. And the final piece is the ecosystem. So Ireland is home to a highly connected sub-supply base, contract manufacturing base, and indeed research and academic community that all work in partnership with the medtech industry here.
Pretty impressive, Rachel. Thank you very much. What was it, Mark, that led Bausch & Lomb to expand your Waterford operations? I mean, the site is already quite large and there's additional investment to grow. So what made the company take that decision?
We're currently undergoing, as you said, expanding the facility. It's mainly to increase capacity for a new product that we're actually launching into our Japanese market. Just at the end of last year, we launched that in. And that expansion will provide additional capacity for those new products. If I was to go to some of the reasons why we're continuing to invest and expand in Ireland, I'd say the first reason is our track record over the 40 years history in Waterford in Ireland. We've built up a track record of delivering on our commitments and supporting the business in terms of whatever way we need to do in terms of growing it. We've set the standard for other manufacturing locations around the globe to follow. So we're seen as a lighthouse operation in terms of best practices that we've started here in Waterford in Ireland. We tend to disseminate them to our other locations around the globe, which is a credit to the team and the people here. We can only do this without having a highly educated and talented workforce here. I suppose another reason is the attractiveness of Ireland to do business. As I mentioned, the products that we make here in Waterford, they're shipped all around the globe. They're mainly single sourced out of Ireland as well, which puts a lot of responsibility on the site. And we're connecting with markets all around the globe. in the morning, we're having discussions with our Asian colleagues. Over 40% of the products that we make here in Ireland are distributed to the Asia Pacific region. So we're in contact constantly there. And then in the afternoon, then our calls are with our US colleagues early in the morning for them. So that location of Ireland, I suppose, in the middle of two big regions for us, is a real advantage with respect to having the operation here.
That's brilliant, Mark. Thank you, and good luck with the expansion as well. James, of course, Teleflex has its EMEA headquarters in Ireland, and it's run here. They run their global supply chain as well as their R&D and manufacturing. Of course, I know Rachel and Mark touched on this, but this requires a highly skilled and diverse workforce. Have you found there's talent available within Ireland to meet those needs?
Yes, absolutely. And just some context, you mentioned some of it already. We have our EMEA commercial headquarters here. We run our global supply chain out of here. We also have R&D capability in Ireland. I think Teleflex is actually quite unique in terms of the breadth of supply chain capabilities or business capabilities that we've positioned in Ireland. And from a supply chain perspective, I report directly to the CEO of Teleflex. We manage approximately $1 billion in spend, 17 manufacturing sites, 26 distribution centers, and over 1,500 suppliers are all managed out of the talent pool we have based in Athlone in Ireland. And for context, all of our senior functional leaders are all based in Ireland. So again, both Mark and Rachel touched on it. Ireland has a really strong history and proven track record in delivery, in manufacturing, and in supply chain excellence over many, many years across many industries. And over the years, Ireland has continued to transform its focus, not just from a manufacturing perspective, but to truly across the full, what we would call the end-to-end value chain. So from a talent perspective, there's no difference to what Mark said. There's a reason we've continued to expand our operations and our capability in Ireland. It's because of the talent and the people, and that we demonstrate when we get the responsibility, we're able to demonstrate the results. Ireland, from a country perspective, has been very strategic in ensuring that they're always looking to meet the future needs of the business. I would have been involved as part of the Irish MedTech Board back in 2015, 2016, where we were trying to identify the future skills needs from a country perspective across many industries. And we identified back at the time that it was data and data analytics was where we needed to upskill and put the right programs and courses in place. So through that, we undertook a national survey. Through that survey, we identified this was a specific need. And then in collaboration with the Irish MedTech Board, the IDA, and Skillnet Ireland, we were able to work with various universities to put programs in place to ensure we had the skills required when we as industry actually needed them. So I think Ireland has been very, very progressive at proactively identifying the future needs of the business and ensuring we have the talent and capability in place to meet those needs when they're required.
That's brilliant. Thanks for sharing that, James, and great talent pool across Ireland.
For sure.
Thank you, Mark. Back to you. MedTech does cover the whole gamut of production from manufacture right through to business service end. Was having this kind of holistic approach to operations important, do you think?
I think it's critical at this point, Carmel, in any business expansion. I mentioned we've got an R&D presence here in Waterford. It was started over 20 years ago. As again, starts small as a satellite to our US operation and has grown to being a significant part of the R&D community in Bausch and Lomb. And from that presence here, 80% of the products that we now make here in Ireland were developed by that R&D team based in Ireland. So having that ecosystem here in terms of an R&D and from an innovation perspective has helped both grow the site here, but also helped grow the overall business as well. So that R&D presence is absolutely critical for us, certainly into the future as well. And as well as we're expanding our manufacturing operation, we're also expanding our R&D presence here in Ireland as well. On the supply chain, I mentioned earlier that we also kind of manage the global supply chain. Most of that is done from our Dublin office, where we manage our contract manufacturing. So around the globe, we've many different contract manufacturing operations, and that's managed by the team in Dublin as well. So having that holistic and global view of what's going on certainly helps when you're trying to kind of make decisions as to where you go with your manufacturing strategy. And the third angle that we also are heavily involved with is in the quality and regulatory space. Again, significant change in that world in recent years, and the Irish team are at the forefront of, I suppose, setting the standard in terms of the quality landscape. We work very closely with, I know James mentioned earlier about the Irish MedTech Association, very involved in getting ahead of the curve with respect to MDR regulations and so on. And we work closely with HIPRA, the Health Product Regulatory Authority in Ireland, who are again at the forefront of that from a European regulation perspective. And I mentioned earlier about Japan being a very critical customer for us. I'll say it here, our Japanese customers are probably the most discerning customers that we have, and they set the standard for all of our customers around the globe, and having that close contact and a good understanding of the regulatory requirements, both in our Japanese markets and also in our European markets, certainly helps when we're trying to, I suppose, help grow that overall global business. So without question, having that holistic view is important. We've come a long way from in the 1980s when we were just a small operation manufacturing contact lenses to that holistic view of the business.
That's brilliant insight. Thank you so much, Mark. Rachel, we know Ireland also has a large fintech sector. Do you think that leads to any interconnection with medtech, and is digitalization there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we are seeing now is just a huge convergence going on, from a technology and from a skills perspective. So, more and more companies are looking at digitization in two ways. The first is smart manufacturing and using new technologies to drive more efficiency and flexibility in production environments. So from a skills perspective, we're seeing so much more crossover now from traditional industries where technology became a core part of their evolution into sectors like medtech. And the production environment is a very real example of that, because as we integrate more and more systems from a manufacturing perspective, access to data and rapid decision making coming from that data becomes even more and more critical in order to be agile and responsive to global supply chain requirements. The second piece really is companies starting to look at technology and adding more and more technology to the actual devices themselves to enable more remote patient monitoring and really driving far better patient care, patient experiences. So when you look at certain types of devices, like, for example, ResMed, they're a company that make a very sophisticated sleep apnea product. They're a digital health company, and their operation in Ireland is actually entirely focused around technology for that particular product. So they, in the last 18 months, have doubled out their R&D team here, which includes machine learning experts, AI experts, and mobile technology experts. So we're seeing that convergence between pure devices themselves and then all of these skills and capabilities that are built up in other industries, like the technology industry, where we have a huge footprint in Ireland. 9 of the top 10 US large medtech company or technology companies are here. All of the top 5 software companies in the world have operations in Ireland. And then we've about 40 fintech companies here. So that cross capability that's there from a skills perspective is really fueling and supporting that more convergence happening from the factory and from the devices point of view. But indeed, back to the points that both Mark and James have made, we're seeing huge investment in the education system. So the Irish IT specialists will be one of the best educated in the EU. About 78% of third level, 78% of people have a third level qualification. But in addition, because we've got one of the youngest populations in Europe, with the third population under the age of 25, you've got a constant stream of young people going into the education system and coming out then as STEM graduates, into the workforce every year. So that pipeline of talent is being fed not just within industry, where people are upskilling and developing competencies across other industries. We're also investing in that pipeline at an institutional level within the colleges and universities as well.
Wow, that's fantastic with such a young population there. Lots of talent available. Next question is for all three of you. Can I ask each of you about the areas, I know you kind of touched on this, where medtech is being used? Do you think there is a cross-pollination of ideas which comes from the community of innovators here in Ireland? James, what do you think on that?
Absolutely. When I think about innovation, innovation can come in many different forms. You can have innovation from a product perspective, but also in terms of process. And maybe I'll take 2 or 3 different examples if that's okay. First and foremost, from a manufacturing perspective, Mark alluded to it already. Ireland has grown its medtech sector on the back of how it's innovated from a manufacturing perspective over many, many years. There was, I'm fortunate enough to have a global perspective. And I can honestly say the ecosystem that Rachel alluded to, I have not seen in any other country around the world. Both in terms of how companies are collaborating with each other, benchmarking, and working together to address common opportunities for the future, has been, from a manufacturing perspective, I believe is a unique competitive advantage from an Irish perspective. And if you want, what gets measured gets done from an operations guy. You look at the amount of companies in Ireland who achieved the Shingo Prize, which is an operational excellence global standard. That didn't happen by accident. That happened because of the medical device cluster we had in Ireland, people coming together to try and drive and set standards and benchmark against each other to set higher standards for the medtech sector. So innovation from within manufacturing, I think, is the ecosystem that Rachel alludes to, is a real live living organism in Ireland. You have suppliers, you have your manufacturing sites, you have R&D, you have universities, we have our employees in universities, we have universities in our sites working together, not just on manufacturing issues per se, but on feasibility and newer technologies for the future. The other area that's really exciting for me personally, and Rachel alluded to it, is the whole area of analytics. Analytics was, something we were trying to figure out 5 or 8 years ago. I can honestly see from a personal perspective, we invested hugely in analytics and Teleflex in 2018 through 2020. And we would not have been able to perform during COVID the way we did if we didn't have the analytics capability and the end-to-end supply chain visibility we were able to position in Ireland. Because of the capability we positioned here in Athlone, we have a command center on the wall behind my back, which is allowing us to see real-time data on a daily basis, how all our factories, how all our distribution centers, and how all the containers around the world, where they are at any time, at any given day. And, go back to 2019 and 2020, when topics like the Suez Canal, port congestion, they were really important capabilities and visibility for us to have. And, within Teleflex, we had developed and positioned all that capability in Ireland. So, and I think, Ireland continues to be quite innovative as a culture and as a people. So, I think it just bodes well for this medtech sector for the future.
Oh, brilliant. Mark, anything to add to that?
John, James covered a lot of it there, but
Yeah.
I think just to build on it, I think the whole ecosystem and the structures that are in place in Ireland make it easy for companies to collaborate. You don't have to go very far or work very hard to try and find out where, if you've got a problem or there's something you're trying to resolve, you don't have to go very far to find out who are the experts, who are the people to talk to. That whole network there is really it's just on your doorstep. We've been partnering with the local university for many years on identifying specific skills gaps that we could see coming down the track, specifically around the digitization, but also on the automation. We'll be a heavily automated facility here, but identifying some of those gaps and putting in the programs in place many, many years ahead of when you're actually going to need them. So you've got those graduates coming through at the right time.
That's incredible, Mark. Thank you. And Rachel, final word for you on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Mark hit the nail on the head there when you described the sort of the way that the structure operates in Ireland to really enable this. So, at government level, there has been huge support to drive innovation across, the whole areas we've talked about there, R&D around software analytics and machine learning. I think we're spending about 800 million euros a year in these spaces to really drive early and applied research across those sectors. But more importantly, we're seeing this technology and these new innovations being developed with an eye to commercialization and to real live, industry-led solutions. So when you look at, our National Institute, for example, for technology research, is called Tyndall National Institute, and they're doing work across the life sciences and the technology industry, looking at cutting-edge smart wearable devices, for example. And they're combining, biosensors with wireless technology, nanotechnology, sensors, and also advanced material technologies. So pulling from across the capabilities in the Irish academic research community and working with industry to develop the next wave of smart wearables, which can be applied across a whole range of sectors, everything from, wound care through to monitoring of patients in their communities and in their homes. So it's that three-pronged approach, the academic piece, the industry piece, and the government support. They're coming together then using new technologies like AI, advanced surgical and diagnostic technologies to really drive the next wave of generation device R&D here in Ireland.
James, back to you. I think we touched on this previously, but have you found Ireland easily accessible from an import and export standpoint?
For sure, yeah. I'm working in the industry nearly 30 years and predominantly in Ireland, and I've never found there to be an issue from an import or an export perspective. Rachel touched on it right at the very start. Ireland, is a gateway to Europe. We're part of the European Union, a huge market, so that obviously brings significant opportunities and ease of access. But also, the other piece I would say is Ireland is a very pro-business environment to work in. And by pro-business, I mean regulations and requirements are clearly understood and articulated. We obviously have standards we have to meet, but once you have the key benefit I've always found working in Ireland is stability and clarity. And once you have stability and clarity, you can make plans and you can drive your operation forward. Maybe in some other jurisdictions, I would have worked in the past outside of Ireland, where you have high levels of inflation that are quite unpredictable and so on. You do not have that environment in Ireland. If I was to paraphrase Ireland or describe Ireland, it really would be one of an environment where it is incredibly stable to allow you to make long-term plans. And that, for me, when you're looking at it from a global perspective, is it gives you huge confidence that strategies you're thinking about 5 and 8 years down the road, you can do that with a high level of confidence when you're based in Ireland.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Mark, I know you mentioned this earlier, but Rachel, tell me about your experience of Ireland's operational and regulation infrastructure. Does this allow for access into markets with strict regulations, as Mark mentioned, like Japan?
Absolutely. I think, having built up, 70 years of developing and manufacturing and exporting complex and highly complex and discrete medical devices, I think, Ireland's reputation as a trusted location and from a regulatory perspective is really, really important. James talked earlier on about Shingo and the high number and high proportion of Shingo Award winners we have in Ireland. That's because there's an underpinning focus at all levels of operations across quality and excellence. And that's underpinned, as I mentioned, then with a very strong regulatory regime. So, that commitment to quality and excellence is built into the DNA of the manufacturing environment here in Ireland. Equally, we have a very, very well-regarded regulatory authority. So Mark touched on HPRA, the Health Products Regulatory Authority. That's really designed, work very closely in partnership with Europe. Obviously we have medical device regulation coming on stream, so it's important that that's understood and that's applied in a meaningful way that has the right outcomes at an industry level and a patient level. But the regulator is there to be open and collaborative with industry and companies at all stages in the regulatory journey. So, acting as a trusted partner from an advisory perspective, but equally ensuring that companies remain compliant and in line with the directives and regulations that are in place. So I think the reputation of Ireland from a regulatory perspective is very, very strong. And that really does provide a lot of comfort, back to James' point about stability and clarity, for the long term when people go into stable regulatory environments that have good reputations for doing the right thing and helping companies to do the right thing every day.
Rachel, Ireland is committed to lower carbon Paris Agreement goals. Are we seeing smarter industrial processes, do you think?
Absolutely. So, I think what's really interesting is the connection now between digitization and sustainability. So, digitization for a long time was about trying to drive efficiency and productivity and increase performance at site level. And as we talked about earlier on, getting better insights from data and interconnection between different systems. But now there's a really clear focus around climate action at corporate level and at site level. We see it just the growth in that shift towards sustainable practices, looking at renewable energy sources, reducing emissions, and looking at waste and lean production in an entirely, new and fresh way through the sustainability lens. So we'll expect to see a lot more innovation in this space and a lot more focus in this space over the coming years. And, there's a lot of support at government level. We've a very ambitious intention ourselves to reduce our climate emissions, our carbon emissions, I should say, at a national level. And, it's very much in line with industrial policy in this space. So through our sister agency, Sustainable Energy Ireland, there's a strong focus on working with companies to help them develop climate action plans on the ground. And then through funding from IDA, through, for example, the Environmental Aid Programme, we can support companies make those sustainable choices at a very practical level as well. So, all of that will drive much more efficient production processes. And ultimately then, as we see the impact, back to the points made around the ecosystem, we'll move away from scope 1 and 2 emissions and the meaningful impacts there into the entire value chain, and how can companies work more closely together using digitization, for example, to really drive more sustainable practices across the entire supply chain and reduce those scope 3 emissions over time as well.
And on that note, James, what do you think about sustainability in this sector?
Yeah, I'd like to share with you two real examples, because I think they might be of interest to folks watching this. The company I was working with at the time, ourselves and 4 other neighbouring companies came together. So we were competitors from a commercial perspective, but we came together and worked with our local authorities to change the planning guidelines to allow us to put up wind turbines on our facilities. We got huge support from the IDA, both from a strategy perspective first and foremost, and then from a grant perspective, as we got approval from the council to erect 5 3-megawatt turbines on our facilities. It was a multi-year project. In all transparency, it took 5 to 6 years from concept to actually getting our turbines up and erected. And to this day, for me, it's a proud beacon in the south of Ireland that we have 5 medical device and pharma companies with 5 3-megawatt turbines producing a huge percentage of their energy use or needs through a sustainable manner. The second example I'll give you, and it's more from a waste perspective and shows how companies again can collaborate with industry. Again, in a prior organization, we had a very significant waste stream that all went to landfill. We liaised with one of the universities and we sponsored a PhD student to come in and figure out how we could treat this waste to allow it to be recycled. It was an 18-month project. And I'm thrilled, and we were generating 4 to 5 tons of waste a week, so quite substantial. And over the duration of that person's thesis, we were able to convert that waste stream from going to landfill to being truly recyclable by implementing a new technology that we hadn't that wasn't out in the market or readily available before. So I think, again, I apply to those, for sure, being part of the medtech sector, sustainability. Well, regardless of whether you're in the medtech sector or not, as a human being, sustainability is critically important. We have a responsibility to look after the planet for our children and for the future generations. But the reason I picked those 2 examples is, for the folks who are listening this morning, if you do come to Ireland, you have this ecosystem. You don't have to try and resolve all of these issues on your own. You can leverage universities, you can partner with other companies, you can work with state agencies like the IDA to address these issues and hopefully accelerate the deployment of those solutions and, potentially even get grant aiding if they're newer technologies.
Brilliant. And Mark, any final word on that?
Again, I think James has covered it, but like any major site, we've got 2 main objectives. One is our CO2 emissions. I think James has covered that with respect to a lot of the issues that are going on on that front. Also is our waste stream. With 0 percentage of our products go to landfill, as James mentioned. I think a lot of companies would be working to that same goal as well. But we're trying to move it on to the next level then with the development of our new products. So how do we build in right from the get-go a sustainability into the products before they even come to the marketplace? How do you make them so that they're biodegradable and you don't have to get into a whole recycling circle with them? So again, it's that, how do we reduce our carbon emissions? How do we reduce our waste levels? But also look into the future. How do we prevent it having to get into the cycle with the new products that we're developing as well? So again, a lot of collaboration across the industry and with 3rd level education on that one as well.
Great. Thanks to you all for that. And I have another question for for all of you, like looking to the future, what do you expect to see with your business? I'll go back to you, Mark.
Thankfully, we're looking to continue grow the Ireland operation. The overall business climate is strong in terms of the business that we're in, and it's how can we maximise the Ireland part of that. And it's going beyond just the traditional manufacturing as we would have spoken about. It's how can we add more value to the overall business in that R&D space, where our R&D team here in Ireland, they're responsible for the R&D team that we have in Asia as well, and educating those as well in terms of future new products developments. And also, how do we expand that global business services out of Ireland? I mentioned about the supply chain piece that we're heavily involved in. There's other areas that we're only commencing in terms of the financial services and the quality side as well. So there's many more opportunities to expand. I suppose the contribution we can make here from Ireland in terms of the overall business. So and it's trying to see how can we complement each other in terms of moving forward with that.
Brilliant. And with IDA, what do you think of that, Rachel?
Absolutely. No, I think for us, we're always, our mandate and our whole purpose is to work with and partner with our clients on their investment journeys right the way from the get-go in terms of setting up in the first instance to the many decades that we've worked with lots of our clients through all of the ups and downs of business growth and challenges. So absolutely, from our perspective, it's helping our clients to identify and win new opportunities to grow and develop their footprint here in Ireland, their activity and the value that they bring to their own parent companies out of Ireland, and indeed then help them to transform their operations so that they're competitive, agile and fit for the future. So, we use a lot of the supports in our toolkit to really drive that transformation journey, which is, never been more critically important than it is at the moment as companies and the world, faces such a period of let's face it, global uncertainty. So really ensuring that we've a long-term sustainable sector here in Ireland is critically important to IDA, and we do a lot of practical work on the ground to really assist our companies to develop and grow what they're doing here.
Thanks, Rachel. And with Teleflex, James?
Yeah, no different to Mark. If I think about it globally, the medtech sector it's a high growth business for sure. And maybe just to reference what Rachel said, maybe I'll give you a global perspective if that's okay, just for a minute. In the post-COVID environment, the area most companies are now striving towards, regardless of industry, is stability, and that's what Rachel alluded to. The buzzword now in the in supply chain is supply chain resilience. Whereas in the past, there was a big drive for offshoring, low-cost manufacturing, and that made sense for a lot of companies based on their cost profiles and so on and so forth. But I think during COVID, with the logistics disruptions that people saw, the inflation that people saw, what companies are now striving towards is resilience and stability. And I think Ireland ticks both of those boxes. Certainly I touched on it earlier, the stable environment you have in Ireland from a political perspective, certainly from an economic perspective, you can plan your business with certainty. And then certainly from a supply chain resilience perspective, Ireland has the environment. You have a core competence, you have an ecosystem here that allows you to set up a manufacturing facility here if it's appropriate, and scale and over time develop into other end-to-end capabilities. The good thing for any potential future companies who are looking at investing in Ireland, you're not a pioneer. Most medtech companies are already based in Ireland in a fairly established manner. 9 of the top 10 medtech companies are already in Ireland. They're here because of the substance and the value add they're getting from operating out of Ireland. So for me, the future really is about how can Ireland contribute to that supply chain resilience and maybe add more value from a global perspective.
And on that note, Rachel, on James's point, what support is there to invest in Ireland from IDA's perspective?
So it's very much a twofold approach, Carmel. With the first instance, it's about practical support for companies setting up in the first instance. So we have a whole property team within our IDA business that actually provides full complement of property solutions to clients that are setting up, be it office space through to large scale production environments, and we work across the entire property domain to identify appropriate solutions for companies coming in. We also, spend a lot of time helping companies really to get connected and embedded with that ecosystem that we talked about at the beginning. So, engaging and working and identifying with suppliers, contract manufacturers, partners from an academic or research or talent perspective on the ground that can help them to scale and get up and running quickly. And then also then to provide those linkages for talent and collaboration over time. So it's very much practical in terms of getting up and running, scaling. From a financial perspective, we can also provide incentives to companies that are setting up in Ireland. So, for example, we have a very attractive R&D tax credit here in Ireland for companies that are carrying out R&D here. And in addition to that, IDA can also provide grants to help companies to carry out R&D activities here on the ground. We can also provide support around digitization, and we can also provide support for upskilling, which is a critical part of that digital skills and that future skills piece that James and Mark spoke about earlier on. And very much then focusing around sustainability and helping companies from a financial perspective to make that step forward towards achieving their climate action goals. So we have a holistic set of supports across setting up in the first instance and grants to help companies set up a first investment, a greenfield investment here, right the way through to transformation supports from R&D, upskilling, digitization and sustainability. And our role really within IDA is to partner with companies to understand where they are in their investment journey and provide those practical supports and then financial supports to companies as they make their decisions going forward, and then work with them over the long term to have a long term, as I say, successful and sustainable investment here.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rachel, and great to have all your insight into such a booming medtech industry in Ireland. Mark Hennessy, James Winters and Rachel Shelley, thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you found this conversation interesting or wish to find out more, please visit www.idaireland.com, and thank you for watching.